everyone, my name is Shri and I'm here today to do a book review. And the book I'll be reviewing today is Shadowshaper by José Older. Shadowshaper is a young adult fantasy and it was released in June of 2015, and it follows our main protagonist Sierra Santiago as she discovers who the Shadowshapers are as well as what shadowshaping is, and she also tries to figure out who is trying to remove the Shadowshapers from existence. When we first meet Sierra, she is painting a mural on this tower, but there's something weird about this mural. She kind of puts that aside for the moment, and after she's done painting, she ends up going home to looking after her grandfather. We find out that her grandfather has had a stroke, and since that stroke, he hasn't really said anything. But when she goes in to see him, he just keeps apologizing about something, and then he starts speaking coherently. He starts saying they're coming for us, they're coming for the Shadowshapers. Sierra has no idea what he's talking about, and then he tells her that she needs to go talk to Robbie, who is a classmate of hers, and then he goes back to apologizing, and then he falls asleep. Now, Sierra might have brushed this off before, but after what happened with the mural from earlier, she kind of becomes concerned with this. Later that night, she ends up going to a party with her friends and she ends up seeing Robbie there. So she goes up to Robbie, she tells him who her grandfather is, she asks about the Shadowshaper, but before he could say anything, a corpse decides to crash this party. And the corpse ends up chasing after Sierra and he asks her, "Where is Lucera?" Sierra obviously has no idea what he's talking about, but this begins Sierra's adventure in trying to figure out the Shadowshapers and who is trying to get rid of them. I really enjoyed this book. I especially loved the main character, Sierra. She felt very relatable, she felt very realistic. She's not your typical YA main protagonist. She shows her insecurities. There's a scene where she has this conversation with her aunt, and it's not a great conversation to have, and it makes her feel insecure, but I liked the way that she handled it. I liked how we were able to see how that conversation affected her. She's definitely someone that I was able to root for. I also enjoyed the dialogue that happened between these characters. This book does seem dialogue heavy, but I was okay with that because I was still able to figure out who most of these characters are through their dialogue. And also there are certain books where some people don't believe that the characters sound like they're teenagers. These characters sounded like they were teenagers. They sound like people you would see walking down the street, or people you would see on the bus, or people you would see at the grocery store, and I really enjoyed that. I also thought the magic in this book was interesting. Now, the magic in this book is shadow shaping, and what shadow shaping does, it infuses ancestral spirits into art forms like paintings and music and story. Now, we got to see a lot of the magic with paintings and a little bit of the magic with music, but I believe we only heard a story of how the magic was used as stories, and I would have loved to see the magic with the other art elements, and I'm hoping that we'll get to see that in the future. And another thing I did like about this book that did make it seem relatable outside of the magic, but in some books, whenever someone needs to get somewhere, it's boom, they're there. They don't have to wait for anything. It's like they're there in 5 minutes. Just to let you know, if you don't ride public transportation, it is not waiting for you when you get to the stop. You have to wait for it, and I really like that this was used in this book. I also like the secondary characters. Her friends were funny and most of them were there for her when she needed them. And I also liked how she didn't keep this a secret from her friends. How right after she figured out what was going on, she went to her best friend, and her best friend acted like her best friend. Her best friend acted like, whatever's going on, I have your back. Her godfather Neville was hilarious too. There's a scene where he helps her get into a library and he kind of distracts everyone, which distracts the security, and what he does, it made me laugh. I was surprised with some of the things that happened in this book as well. I will say I did figure out who the main villain was early on. At least I guessed it correctly. But that was the only thing that I figured out. I had no idea who Lucera was. I didn't know how she was going to figure out how to stop the main villain. I also did suspect some people being bad, but I was wrong. So yeah, I like being surprised by this book. I will say though, I didn't really feel anything for Robbie. And I think I was supposed to feel something for him. I didn't feel like I liked him. I didn't feel like I hated him. I didn't really feel anything for him. And I feel like I was supposed to feel something for Robbie. And I just didn't. It did take me a few chapters to get into this book, but once I was in it, I did really enjoy it. This felt like a really good introduction into this world, And actually, I did ask the author on Twitter if this was a series, and he said he believed it was. So I'm excited to see where this series would go. There are a lot of questions that weren't answered by the end of this book. I wanted to know more about her grandfather and if her grandfather will speak again. And also there are these other spirits called the Sorrows, and I really enjoyed that part of the story where Sierra was talking with them, and I would love to see more of them in the future. Overall, I gave this book a 4 out of 5. I really enjoy it. It's a great introduction to a series. I recommend Shadowshaper. That's all I have for this book review today. Let me know if you've read this book or if you're thinking of picking up this book. I'll leave more description in regards to this book down below. And thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!